So let's kick off our presentation. It's part of a series that we're running. This is all the series for October is called Fine Tuning Your Business. And today we're working on effective networking skills. And we have an amazing networker with us, Andrea Nirenberg. We're going to hear a little bit more about her in just a moment. But before we do, we have a little background work that we need to do. What is SCORE? SCORE, who is presenting this webinar, is a national nonprofit organization that provides small businesses free and confidential mentoring, both in person and online. Our chapter, which is the Minnesota chapter, has 90 volunteers waiting to help you thrive in your business. And if you need any help at all, this is where to come. Our chapter, we're very proud to say, has been recently designated as a Diamond Chapter of Excellence, which is the highest award that you can have for a SCORE chapter. Since 1964, SCORE has assisted over 11 million clients. So if you need help with your business, apply for a SCORE mentor. We will help you no matter where you are in your process, whether you're just researching or planning or just have an idea for a business, or you're ready to open that business and you need a little help doing that, or you'd like to grow your business. Andrea is going to show you some growth strategies. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with listening, but we'll hear that when we listen to Andrea. Or if you're selling or closing your business, maybe you've decided to retire and you'd like to close or sell your business. We have a team that is specialized with that. In fact, the last of the sessions is going to talk about selling and closing. So that's at the end of October. We'll talk about those a little bit later in our presentation. We would like to encourage you to go visit our minnesota.score.org website. That's where you go to request a mentor. You'll see there's a couple of places for you to click and request a mentor. You can also find workshops or webinars like this one that are upcoming and register for them. You can locate podcasts that we've got stored on there, or look in our library of resources. We have all kinds of Excel templates and other documents that will help you do the homework necessary to find out whether or not a business could be successful for you. Well, one thing that we absolutely have to do is thank our sponsors and community partners. These banks and other institutions that help keep the lights on are the cornerstone for our organization. If you have an opportunity to help or to use any of these businesses, tell them that you saw it on our SCORE Minnesota presentation. So without further ado, let me introduce our presenter today, Andrea Nirenberg. She's the driving force behind the Nirenberg Consulting Group. She's an internationally known business development authority, author, and speaker on professional development, sales training, and business communication, and she is a master networker. Today, we will be hearing from the best. I turn this over to you, Andrea. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I was a SCORE mentor for quite a few years. It's a wonderful organization, and I encourage everyone to utilize and get to know the people and to grow your business. And I know, Diane, you'll be the monitor for me for moving the slides, correct?
I will, absolutely. You just give me a click or a raised eyebrow or something.
Okay,
a finger will do.
I think you can see me, right? If I do that,
I can.
right?
I
okay,
can.
Great. So you can go to the next slide. So again, everyone, today, what we're really talking about, and I'm going to be doing the kind of Cliff Notes version of a course that could be one day into 1 hour. And so feel free, I always like to say this, if anyone has a question, a comment, or anything, we've provided lots of handouts for you. And I don't know if you've printed them out or just have them in your computer, but a workbook, if you will, the PowerPoint that we're talking about now, what I call your networking checklist, whether you're in person or, as we all know, the world has become very virtual in the last year to year and a half. However, a lot of the things still apply. And also what I call your networking well, where is it? Right here in front of me, what I call my information bank, which is tools of gold when you think about it, because it's all about getting to know people and everything. So what we're going to do is what I call common sense, just not always common practice. And Diane, you're extremely right with listening skills, because people always ask me, what's your number one skill to become good at networking? And I always say to be a good listener. We hear, but we don't always listen. And here's an experiment for everybody. When you think of the word listen, what's the secret word in the word listen using all the letters? Any idea? It's the word silent. Your mind has to be silent. Too often we're thinking ahead. So this introduction exercise, I'm going to just tell you to do this later with friends or colleagues, and think about that. When you hear the word networking, what comes to mind, and who do you admire already that's a great communicator, and why? People who speak well, they're eloquent, they're composed, and they focus on the other person. They know that they know what they know already, but it's all about learning. And think about this also, and maybe you can share this with your SCORE mentor at some point. What's been one thing that's already resulted in your life and your business life from networking? I bet if we track it back, and I have lots of tools that I have in a lot of my worksheets on, think about who was that first connector and how do we stay in touch with those people, which only adds to our networking. So next slide. So when I think about the 5 drivers of networking success, I always think about meeting people. Now, a lot of people have had the excuse, well, I can't meet people because of the pandemic. And I'm not modifying that at all. What I am saying, though, is that when we think about it, we have opportunities. Zoom has been great. You don't even have traffic to go to, or you can go right online. So many ways, and you can connect with people that way. However, now we're getting back out there again. So think about specifically, I know myself when I moved here from New York City 7 years ago, and I didn't know anyone here except my sister. And I love her, she's great, but we have totally different interests, and I knew I had to get involved. So I immediately got involved with SCORE. I got involved with the Chamber of Commerce, the notary. I have special interests. Think about the things that you could meet people that are also in things that you have an interest with. I'm a ballroom dancer, took dancing, and still do. Things like that you can do to give back. Meet people and nurture your connections. This is important when we think about how do we nurture connections and relationships. And one of the things I say to do every day is think about the people that are already in your network. Before we go out and meet new people, we forget about the fact that we have gold in the people we already know, that know us and respect us. So how do we connect with them, stay in touch, stay on their radar, if you will? Sending emails, sending voice messages, phones. Remember the originally used for this device, the phone? We forget that. It's for speaking. Texting, which is the way of today. And then something I do, the handwritten personal note. I don't know if anyone still does that, but there is such an opportunity in what I call your power of 3. Every single day to different people in your network, there's an opportunity to say thank you, to touch base, to refer someone to them, to be a resource. And if we think about that and you go through your list, and again, I'm quickly going over this right now, but the idea is every single day, and I've been doing it since I'm, I guess, 21, and I'm a lot older than that now, is I write 3 handwritten personal notes a day. I know I call it my 55-cent investment plan because that's the that's the price of a stamp, but send it, because people remember that, or send your text, or send send a voice message, things like that. If they're on the phone, of course, talk to them. But the idea is nurture. Nothing happens if you don't plant your seeds and then continue to work with them. Listen and learn. I said that already about listening. I don't know if anyone can see me. Can they see my face at all, Diane? They can? Okay, great. So I want everyone out in Never Neverland, if you can see me do this, make a fist. I hope everyone's making a fist. Diane, will you do this so I can just see? All right, so everyone make a fist. Now, quickly put your fist on your chin. Okay. Oh, but see, Diane, you did it right first. You did what 99% of the people do. You went like that, and then you went, wow, she's going on her cheek, so I better watch her. So that's what we do. A lot of times people say, oh, the poor lady doesn't know what she's doing. No, I do. But we watch, we don't listen only with our eyes. That's what most people do. We have to listen with our ears. And 7% of the whole communication out there is with what the words are. So 55% is our visual communication, which is why it's so important when you meet people, connect with them, whether on Zoom or in person, that you have eye contact, you're alert, you're in person, you focus on the other person. I know this sounds like such common sense. It's not always common practice. So the idea is then 38% is our tone of voice. Do we inflect? Do we connect with people? And then only 7% of the words. If it wasn't different, when I would have done this, everyone would have gone immediately to your chin. Okay, next one. So create advocates, what I call, that's the key of networking. It's not just that I know someone like all my good friends, like when I became a SCORE mentor, I was assigned to John Stewart, who some of you might know. And John is a good friend of mine to this day. We meet, we always connect. We are advocates of each other. And that's what you want to do. Create advocates with other people as you build your brand and business. How do people describe you, your business, and what you do when you're not in the room? And think about with everybody that you know and respect, because you can always be referring someone else, be a resource, or helping people. If we think about that, then the word networking doesn't sound cheesy or slimy. I've heard every word. After writing 5 books on this subject, I've heard it all. And I always say it's people skills. It's connecting, and communicating with people authentically, sincerely, and really with a full purpose of how do I help the other person first? Because again, the more we help others, people help us, again, without keeping score. And my dad, the wonderful networker above, I mean, he was the greatest. He was a physician, but he wouldn't have called himself a networker, but he was always helping people. He always said to me, give without remembering, receive without forgetting. If we say that, that's the whole subject of networking. Give, connect with people. You know, everyone's personality is different. I don't have time to go into the whole thing that we know about the 4 different styles of personalities. I teach that course, so I have learned a lot about that. But nurture and learn as much as you can. When you meet people, see what they are. Watch their personality. They'll give you clues on how to connect with them. But give without remembering. Never receive anything without saying thank you, even if you get a rejection, because I'm sure I'm not the only one listening to this who's ever been rejected. And it's not that I say thank you for rejecting me, but I might say thank you for the consideration on the proposal, you know, continued success. Maybe there'll be an opportunity down the road. When I was actively running my company, I always tracked back that 30 to 40% of business would come in a month from people that had rejected or maybe said we have someone else. And then because I wrote a note, came back to me. Follow up. After all is said and done, much more is said than done. So people think a lot about following up, but I bet a lot of us have in our inbox right now or in our text messages, oh yeah, I was going to get back in touch with that person. I was going to. No, every day, make sure that whoever reached out to you or you reached out to for a specific purpose, that you do follow up. So that is so key. And that's something I always say after doing a session like this, go back and say, who did I say I was going to send a note to? Or who should I send that information to? You know what? We never know. We have plenty of time. Today we walk around with these little tools in our hands. So I'm not saying to do this when you're driving, but when you're when you're somewhere, you have an opportunity. I get more texts out and notes out when I'm stopped somewhere, not at a red light, but I mean, when I'm at a place waiting for an appointment, etc. So follow up. Go ahead. Next. Stay on people's radar screens. Key. I just want to say one thing about this. This is so important. People remember us when we are on their radar, which is why I always say go back to the first person who ever introduced you. So I track that. When I used to work a lot in financial services with advisors and agents and different things like that, I would always remember when I would be in one corporation or another department or another area, I'd always keep a list. Who introduced me to that one, to that one, to that one? A lot of us work in business units within our organization. You can build a huge internal network that way. And always go back and say thank you to the people. They may be like, I didn't even know that person. Yes, but you introduced me to this one, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. If you organize it, it's not that difficult to do this. Another great secret is utilize Google Alerts. Does everyone know what Google Alerts is? You know, it's an automated content generator, as I like to call it. But you can go in, and a lot of people ask me, they said, oh, I never heard of that. And it's a secret in a way to some people because it lists everything about anything about anybody if you put in a keyword or a company or name. Let me give you a quick example. I used to call on one of the large international banks in New York. My main client, who I never really got to speak to much because I would work down, would be the head of the private bank. Now, I put him on Google Alerts. So I got an email, because that's what happens. The alerts will come in, and you can modify them and work with them. But what happened is, what I did is I saw that he had just been profiled in one of the financial services magazines that I don't read all the time. However, Financial Times. So, but there was an article about it. I read it. So I sent him an email, because that was his preferred method of communication. Key point, ask people when you meet them and you connect with them, what's your preferred method of communication? Some people will say email, some will say text, some might say LinkedIn. So, whatever it is, some people will still say call me. Baby boomers specifically will still say pick up the phone and call me and leave a message. But the idea is, and some people will say everything, but no, not everyone does everything. We all know people who never read below the subject line on emails. We know people who never return a phone call. They never listen to their voicemail. So ask people their preferred method. His, by the way, was email. Send a quick email, sent, hi, I just saw this article about you. Congratulations. It was, and all the best. That's all I said. He was traveling in Brazil. 3 hours later, I get an email back, a man who never emailed me ever, and said, thank you. Where did you see it? I didn't even know the article was out yet. Now, I didn't tell him I saw it on Google Alerts. That's our secret weapon. But he was like so impressed that he said, get on my calendar. It took me 3 months to see him. I got a lot more business from him. But guess what? Stay on people's radar. Okay, next slide. So I like to call this the S factor of networking. It can be strategic and structured. One of your handouts today is what I call your networking checklist. Now, you can modify that whether it's virtual or in person, but it's a checklist on what to do before, during, and after any event that you're going to be going to. How to connect, how to meet people, who to talk to, where to go to, all those different things. In a situation like that, and when people think of networking, a lot of times they think it has to be an event. You're going somewhere. So structure and strategic. I like to say most of life is serendipitous networking, and we all would agree to that. Anywhere, anytime, any place. Think about some of the most important contacts and connections you've made, and it's usually been through that. Subconscious means, you know what? We don't call it networking, but it is. People will say to me, oh, I don't network. I'm saying, oh, okay. How do you get a lot of your business? Oh, through my contacts. I'm like, hello, how would you have gotten those if it wasn't? So we don't call it that because sometimes people don't like the word, because too often in the past, specifically when you heard the word networking, people thought that means you wanted to get something from the other person. And if we turn it around, give first, and things have a way of coming back when you least expect it, and maybe they won't all the time. However, you do it enough, things come back. Social. When I say social, the social media platforms that we have, there's always controversy about them every single day. As we know, pick the ones that work for you, but specifically make it positive. Maybe you just want to be, connect with people, and different platforms are for different things. So social media is a positive for me. And then, of course, strategic introductions. So I think about how many contacts and connections I've made, and because people have introduced me, and I make a point of also doing that, because when you introduce someone else to someone, they already know you, and you make that connection right there. So it makes it work because they already have a little bit of belief in them, but always follow up. Okay, next. So I always like just to show this briefly. Some of us are introverted, some of us are extroverted. I, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I'm a learned extrovert because I knew I had to be. That doesn't mean that if I go to an event, I have to meet everyone there in the room. No, I specifically want to meet at least 3 people. And then, because at least with 3 people, I can follow up, I can connect with. That doesn't mean I can't meet more, but I want to be able to get into a conversation, learn something about them, find out a way to connect, or at least not every single person that you meet are you going to follow up with. Sometimes it's just like, it was great to meet you. Perhaps I'll see you at another event, or let me give you my card, or may I take your card? If something comes up, would it be okay to get in touch with you? And I did say the word cards because some people say they don't have cards anymore. You know what? I'm old fashioned. I still like to have cards. So Vistaprint is alive and well. When you think about that, so at least have a card with information on it. So think about that, because so many opportunities for you. Again, remember, people will say, oh, I'm not good at networking because I'm introverted. No. Introverted people very often listen very well. We retain, we connect. That doesn't mean extroverts don't. However, use both of your strengths to your, to make them work for you. Sometimes people go with buddies, at least, sort of one after the other when they're on a sales call or something like that. I always say go alone, though. It's the best way to connect. Next. So I say the opposite of networking is not working. So again, every time you meet someone, you can learn from them, be a contact for them, a resource, and give back something to them. So too often when we think it's about what we get. No, it's about what we give. I always say, how do I know? Key sentence here. How do I know when I'm speaking to someone that you might want to meet? Now, when I ask that question to people, then if they're prepared and they're thinking, they say, well, the type of person I look for, the type of business or the connection I would be most interested in, at least it gives me a place to start. So always think about that. So it's a great line when you connect with people. And even if you're not going to say, okay, let's have coffee next week or have our own private conversation, just so I'll be prepared. How do I know when I'm speaking to someone you want to meet? So key thing to know. Next. Okay, so these rules of networking, they sound a little basic. However, let me tell you, smiling is important. I'm not saying like that weird grin, you don't want to look like a mass murderer, but I'm saying have a genuine, nice smile. When we were wearing masks a lot, I coined a phrase called SMIES, which is smile with your eyes. It has to be genuine though. So think about that. I've traveled like many of you all over the world, and I always think about the fact that that is a universal greeting. When you smile, you're open, it's welcoming, it's approachable. Key thing when you're networking. Okay, next. Look the person in the eye. This sounds simple. However, think about how many times you look at somebody and you really don't look them in the eye. People looking all over the place. And one of the things that I always tell people a lot of times if they want to use an experiment is the next person that you meet, or you're talking to, even somebody that you might even be working with or something, remember their eye color. All right. So not that you're going to say, I remember your eyes are blue, but it's just a test for you that you're looking them in the eye. And you can't look at both eyes at the same time. So there's a secret to that. So you don't want to look weird. Okay, the Ira Formula, again, I was a Dale Carnegie instructor many, many years ago at night when I was in the magazine publishing business before I started my own company. And I always remembered this formula: impression, repetition, association. So when you meet someone, remember we talked about listening, but you get an impression about that person on Zoom. And a lot of times on Zoom, we forget somebody's name, but in person, sometimes they told us their name, we forgot it. Repeat it back. So Diane, so nice to meet you. You don't want to say it 5 or 6 times in the sentence. Have you ever had that? It's weird and annoying. So you don't want to, but so nice to meet you. But in your mind, you repeat it, and then you form some sort of association. And it's funny because Diane, you're an example, because when we connected, one of the ways I remembered is I could see you shaking hands with my friend Diane from New York, so who I speak to all the time. So it was like an association. So just find your own formula. And again, one of the other key things that I always walk around with pen and paper, like a little note thing, so I can always, after I've walked away from somebody, I'm going to remember their name. I don't write on someone's business card because I learned in Asia that's not something to do. It's because it's like you're disgracing the card. But I always write a little note down. So write down something. No matter how sharp your mind is, it's still weaker than the palest ink. So write notes and write things down. Another thing is, how many of us have ever gone somewhere and then we forgot the person comes up to us, they know us, and we've forgotten their name? Has it ever happened? It is. Yeah. So people will be like, oh, I forgot, whatever. No, I just very clearly will say, forgive me. Please tell me your name again. No one has ever said to me, guess what it is? They'll tell you. And then you remember. That's the key. But so many people are afraid to say that. Just go with it. Next. Beware of body language. Well, we live in a country now, we don't even, like this pandemic has kept us so away that we're afraid to go out. I know we have social distancing and all that, but the idea is in different parts of the world, know the customs of things. And you don't have to live in another part of the world just to know certain things. Like I remember, different customs and different things. There's a wonderful book. It was called, oh gosh, I have to remember what it was. My friend gave it to me years ago, but it was like customs of different countries and people, and just all the different speak, bow, or shake hands. I think you can still get that online just to find out when you're connecting with people, different cultures and things like that. But body language is key. And one of the key things is, if we sit with our arms like this, or if we're not looking someone in the eye, and if our feet, have you ever noticed when you're talking to somebody, if your feet are pointing the same way as theirs, they're engaged in the conversation. If somebody's feet are pointing like out to the left or right, that means they want to have a getaway system. So just things to think about. Next. Kind of going through these quick. Reach out to people. Take the initiative. Be proactive. Too many people say to me, well, I'm going to wait, or I'm going to do this. No, every day that we wait, someone else is getting that business or that contact or that connection. And these things apply, as we know, for people that are retired or changing careers. I'm in what I call chapter 3 now. So I've already had my corporate business, my consulting business for 23 years, and now I'm doing something else. But you know what? Things always apply in all these different things, because we're always net connecting, if you will. Net friending, however you want to do it, the rules apply. Okay, next. Be positive. And that's another thing. Years ago, when I would be teaching, a lot of times in corporations, everyone would tell me, oh, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. No, it won't work if you continually tell yourself that. So the idea is take the action step and do it. And set a goal for yourself. Don't try to do it all in a hurry. At the end of our workshop, I've provided for you what I call 52 networking reminders. And if you think about, do one a day, or if you will, or do one a week, and then just keep building on them, you'll really see how they work for you. And they're simple. Common interests. Isn't that the thing that that we do anyway when we start talking to people and like, oh, where are you from? Where'd you go to school? When we go on LinkedIn, it's a wonderful way when you look at somebody's profile or their information. Sometimes you see that they may have gone to the same school, or that they have the same interest do, or they may know some of the same people, but look for commonality. And that's one of the key things that we do in any stage of life. But we forget that that can also turn into a wonderful business opportunity, if we will, because we're just being open to that. So I always say, look for common things. Again, ask people open-ended, high-gain questions. Tell me more. By the way, those 3 words, tell me more about yourself, are wonderful, because who do people love to talk about more than anyone in the world? Me, myself, and I, in any order. So I always find, and again, and I'm not being, I know I'm kind of making light of it, but it's important when you do it authentically. I can't tell you how much I have learned about so many things just because you listen and you learn and you tell me more about you, things that I never probably maybe would have even known about or understood. Or what's a great thing for what I call myself as sort of new Floridian, 7 years now. So I guess it's not so new, but the idea is, you know, who do you go for that? Or who would you recommend for this or whatever? Because again, people recommend people that they trust and know, because it's always a reflection back. Okay, next. Become aware of everything. So I always say 24/7. So it's like, you know, when we think about it, we're really, not to say that we're on 24/7, but, you know, you might be out to dinner with friends. You might be meeting someone. Like yesterday, I was having lunch with a friend and we were at one of the clubs here in Sarasota. And I ran into somebody I knew and he immediately said, oh, you need to know these 2 people. So made that connection right there. I got their cards, you know, wasn't, you know, we just chatted a little bit. Turned out that one of the people there was actually originally from Egypt. And I'm going to Egypt next month. So I said, oh, what a great connection. I said, I've been there before, but he said, I'd love to be able to share anything with you at all. So follow up, yes. This afternoon, he gets an email from me. So again, just be open and aware, have a plan and goals. So again, if we sit down and say, if you do nothing more than do what I call your power of 3 every day, or have your power half hour of when you're going to strategically sit down and reach out to your contacts and connections. You know, I always say I'll send 3 emails to email preferred people. You might say, well, how do I know they're preferred that way? Well, at first we don't. So you might just, maybe they've written to you or you might just throw it out there. But I know now with all the different contacts I have what their preferred method is, because I asked or I observed. And then I wrote it down and kept it in my information bank that I have a master file of. So have a plan and goal. So 3 emails a day, 3 texts, 3 phone calls. You can make more again, but just these are your everyday, if you will, what you have in just to mine your network, and 3 handwritten notes. You do that a day, every single day, or at least, you know, 3 a day. 3, there's 5 days in the week. If we think of the work week, you even do 3 days a week. I mean, it's amazing. I think about it. And it's amazing how many connections you make that way. Do your homework consistently. So that is important. We have so much noise on the internet and so much information, but think about how you retain information, what you do to do your homework, and sit down and do it, because you can't learn, like even a skill like networking, if you don't do it. Get involved, be global in your thinking. And the key thing is be clear about what you do. You know, again, stick to your knitting at first. You know, a lot of times, oh, I can do it all. When people say that, we've all met people that, oh yeah, we can handle all that for you. What do you really do? How do you want to be remembered? So that people start with that. And maybe you say, you know what, I know somebody who could help you with that. So, okay, great. Somebody just asked me, I think, what method do I use to maintain like mine? I'm very old fashioned. I just have from Outlook, I just keep a master list of things that really kind of follow along with what I call your information bank, which I don't know if everyone has that, but I'm going to skip over to that for a minute. And the information bank is basically what I do about things I learn about people over time. And how do you do that? By listening, by observing, by asking questions. So I have things on there, for example, like business information, like simple things. Are we connected on LinkedIn? and then what are some of the things they've told me? What's important to them? I always ask my clients, and I've always asked them that, why do you work with me? Tell me what you like the most, or what we could do better, things like that you learn. And always think about how you refer them. Also key is, and I always want to know, and I keep a list of, are they an analytical thinker? Are they get to the point, bottom line? Are they more sales and influencer? Or are they more nurturing? Boy, you can learn a lot about how to connect with somebody that way. And I just keep it on my list. Now, again, I have this all in my computer. So for each contact, I'll just continue to grow that and fill it. It may sound like a lot of work, then don't do it. Make it work for you, modify. Things like personal information, that's key, because remember, we think logically, but we often go with our gut and with our heart. So when we think about that, things that are important to people, like I remember a lot of people's birthdays, not because I have a good memory and because Facebook is helpful, they send it to me. But on the other hand, I will ask people, what month are you born under, as I get to know them. It's not like I'm going to start asking all this over immediately. The key thing is over time, as you nurture and build the networks, you learn things about people. You learn things that are personal, their children's names, their pets' names, personal things, books they love reading, or genres, or movies, and things. I know you're saying, oh my God, key things, sensitivities. There's always people have pet peeves, and we know when we learn those, we want to stay away from those, right? And everything like that. You want to be sensitive. Be sensitive to people's, if you take people out to meals or you connect with them, be open to like what they may be sensitive to, eating, drinking, etc. I'm a vegan for the last 17 years. It doesn't matter. I go anywhere in the world, but people be like, oh my God, where can I go with you? No, it's no big deal. But the thing is, I know that I wouldn't send a fellow vegan like Omaha Steaks for the holidays or something like that. So it's just, again, make it work for you. Okay, next. Okay, your commercial. How do you wish to be remembered? Now, if you think about that, brief and to the point. I always say about the 3 B's: be brief, be brilliant, and then be gone. So again, what do you say? And too often we say our title. But the idea is, and you've probably had lessons and seminars on this too through SCORE, is really on how to introduce yourself and how to, like, what do you say? But I stay away from titles because everyone makes an assumption when we have a title. So we've heard before, like, I help, or I, do this. But really, when we think about this, and this might be a good exercise, is think about what you do and how you could narrow it down to 7 words and just really be hard hitting, if you think about that, create and retirement plans for people, something like that. Someone's, oh, really? Oh, okay. How do you do that? Or things like that. But you really want to have what you call your grabber first. Keep it short. Less is more. Okay, next. Have several different introductions. Why do I say that? Because we go to different types of events. Like I know as in my former life, when I was doing a lot of training on networking and specifically on public speaking, it'd be different according to where I'd go, or because of personality styles. A lot of times people would say, one title might be, how sometimes you meet people and no one connects well, or they don't play well in the playpen, so to speak. One of the things is create ways to connect with everyone and have everyone work together. You can shorten that down, but think about the fact, different introductions for different areas. Again, without giving your title. That's a hard one if you don't have to give your title, because if I say I'm a financial advisor, someone might immediately think, I have one, I have 3, everyone's calling me. No, what do you do? But just how you help, create, how you focus in on what you actually do. Next. Make it relevant. Again, the key words are tell me more. So when somebody says tell me more, that means they've already got a little bit, you've whet their appetite. Tell me more, but you don't want to tell them too much more. You know why? Because you want to say, if they'll say to you, tell me about you. No, tell me more about you first. You know what I mean? Because what you're doing, you're gathering information. They say to you, well, we focus on this or that or whatever. Then you're thinking also, how do I then, again, this is not manipulation, by the way, this is communication. This is like, then what do you say to somebody that says, okay, so we have a commonality here or something like that. Key thing. Okay, what's coming now? Okay, yeah, don't oversell. Key thing. And networking is not about put your weight behind it, but have passion about it. You know, so often when I've seen people that used to go to networking events or anything, somebody says, what do you do? Or they walk in like they're going to the guillotine, you know, walk in. Has anybody watched the TED Talk by Amy Cuddy, Harvard professor? And she talks about having the power pose. And like, you know, even before a Zoom call, because again, Zoom sometimes, as we know, is even harder because people are focusing in. You know, we don't know where to look. We don't know, you know, we never know on the computer or the iPad, so I look up or down or wherever. But it's like, how do we really have that position where we have our confidence and we feel good, but we're also a human being. You know, we make mistakes sometimes. That's key. That's all right. But put your weight behind what you say and deliver with passion. Okay, next. Be happy about what you do. I've seen some people that I'm like, I might have wanted to work with them, but they didn't seem like they liked what they did. So because I'll say to somebody, oh, tell me more about your work, or, you know, what are you, give me like a few examples of some of your last clients or some of the people you've helped with. So have that sort of in your, you know, your tools, if you will, that you can just pull out. Again, without mentioning names, but, you know, what are some of the things that you really enjoy? People enjoy what they do. We like to go to work with people who enjoy what they do because we know that that we can trust them, and we'll then be able to refer them also. Because a lot of people that we meet, we may not be in need of their services. I have a lot of good friends here that are realtors. I'm not selling or buying now. However, I know people who are. And I know people coming down from New York City and Boston and Chicago, and they'll call me and say, who do I go to? And so I'll think about each of the people I know, their different strengths and areas that I know they would be real. Oh, you would be really good with this particular person. So really, when you think about it, remember, part of really good, powerful networking is how do you introduce and connect other people? Because 1 + 1 = 3. They'll remember you, that you were the one. Yeah, be careful of this. And I always look at my clock to say, oh yeah, be careful of that. MIGO stands for my eyes glaze over. When you're talking to someone and they're like, oh boy, they could almost sleep with their eyes open. That means that they have checked out. So you don't want them to get MIGO, which is why less is more. So, okay, your intro, again, I'm just going to go over this because we're not going to go over this now, but just know you practice it, less is more. But what do you say that causes them to want some attention, you know, so you can just pull it out. Okay, next. Okay, we're not going to put it into action now. You can take that back. Okay, just again, want to go over the 5 drivers, so important. Meet people and nurture your connections. This I can't emphasize enough, because it's not just about meeting new people. It's about nurturing the ones that we have, because all the people in your network now, that do you really know them, or could you know them better? And again, I mean, you know how to break them down into different groups. My point is, though, sometimes people will go to events or meetings and they'll go, okay, I'm done. I went there. No, that wasn't networking. You just went somewhere. What did you start to develop? And I always say, boy, I go through my lists all the time of people that I specifically on LinkedIn too, people that I used to work with that I haven't spoken to for a while, that I just reconnect with. It's wonderful. We have so many tools at our fingertips, but meet and nurture is the key word there. Listen and learn. Every time I get off the phone with somebody, or every time I have a meeting with someone, I go back and debrief. What did I learn from that person? If you look at the word learn, it's got the word ear in it. So remember to tune up the ears. And, you know, the great line was, we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth to use in proportion. So it's important. And somebody told me a long time ago when I first got into business, and He said, you know, the most successful people when examined have teeth marks on their tongue. Think about that, because they bite their tongue. Sometimes we want to say something, but let the other person continue talking. Follow up, plan of action. You know what? Based on what we talked about today, what would be the best way to follow up with you? What's your preferred method of communication? Again, ask that question. How do I know if I'm speaking to someone that you might want to connect with or meet? Not to say I know them, but I will keep it in mind. Specifically, if you had a good interaction with this person. You know, again, everything. We've all seen crazy things, right? Somebody asked me once, what was the worst thing that ever happened to you at a networking event? And I remember, it was so many years ago, but I was in New York City and I was at an event and someone came up to me, we had talked, I'd given him my card, he had asked for it. And then he came back up to me later and said, I had taken his card and he said, you know, I realized, could I get my card back? I know that you really can't be of help to me. So I was like, no problem, you know, or something like that. And I was like, he just only brought 3 cards with him and he had found somebody that he knew was going to do business with him right away. I was like, no problem. But it's so nice to meet you anyway. Not. Okay, then. So stay on people's radars. So think about who you can get back in touch with. I know every time I do any kind of exercise like this, I go back and then think about all the different people. So we've done that and go forward. Yeah. So think about who you can say thank you to. I always want to say thank you to SCORE for bringing me back to have this kind of webinar and to just share some simple tips and tools. And like I said, there is the networking checklist. Look at it, read it, modify it. Your information bank has all these things that you'll learn over time. And that's the key words, over time. And then there's a workbook too. When I say a workbook, it's just basically the PowerPoint, but like little things to do every day or just sort of fill in. And again, if anyone has questions or comments on this, feel free to reach out because I always follow up. Next. Oh, great. And this is the golden circle of networking. Remember, this is key. So every time you meet someone, if you think about what can I learn from that other person by listening to them, we learn. So you want to give something away based on what you learn. So, okay, you know, so nice talking to you about that. You know what, I have a piece of advice for you, or you just mentioned that you're looking to expand your business in this area. Have you thought about joining this or going to this type of association, or have you gone on LinkedIn or something, or I might be able to suggest a person I can connect you with. Ask, so ask open-end questions, but ask something, you know, how do you know? How do I know if I'm speaking to someone you might want to meet? And then you might also say, when you're promoting your business a little bit and you're talking to somebody and you say, if you ever run across anyone, or would it be okay after we get to know each other, would you feel comfortable referring me? You don't ask, you don't get. Isn't it true? You have to ask, but you have to know when to ask, and it can't be that immediate thing. You have to get to know them first. Thank them. Most people forget to thank. I always say, you know, when we think about that, somebody once, I'll never forget, another one, you know, we have thousands of stories, but someone called me up once years ago, was out of a job and said, I know you know a lot of people, and could you introduce me? And I said, okay, send me some information, send me your resume, whatever. And I then made a couple of introductions. Of course, he never followed up with them. And I ran into this man at a conference six months later. I said to him, whatever happened? He said, you know, I got so many responses from all the notes I sent out, you know, for help, that I just never followed up. I said, great. I said, are you still looking? He said, yes. I said, good luck. No, not with me. So again, watch that. Thank people and make sure, you know, you've had people who've gotten a job and then they forget to thank you. You know what? It's okay. But all I'm saying is, you know, what goes around comes around over time. Follow up. Key thing. You follow up, you remember. So that's something also in the networking checklist, like what to do after a Zoom call or what to do or after the event. Follow up with somebody that you connected with. So think of everyday networking. Everything is a networking opportunity. Every day you can learn, connect. Okay, so we've kind of done that already. So I was just going to say that's in your checklist and everything like that instead of going over it, but some icebreaker questions. And, I always say, what brought you here? Or how did you get involved? Or a great question. A lot of times, a lot of people I think that are listening now live in Florida. Maybe you haven't always lived here, where you're from, or, commonality kind of questions like that. So get your 20-second intro down. Try to keep making it shorter and shorter. Practice with that. And I can send some suggestions on that, Diane. Okay. If you want, I do that. I'm going to make a promise. I'll do it later or tomorrow because I'm running out right after this, but I'm going to send some 7-second intros. Okie doke. Okay. Next, I think, is that it? The next one. So we did that. Okay. Then the tangibles. I say in your networking toolkit, carry cards. If you can see my phone, I have 3 different cards here. I have different cards for different things. And so again, pen and paper, notepad. I always have a short one because I always forget something's going to go wrong with my hands. And people think you're like writing a spy note if you're always on your computer, on your phone. Breath mints, I know it sounds wild, just like Purell hand sanitizer. They never had it so good the last year. But the thing is, breath mints, when you're talking to somebody, I know we have social distancing, hand sanitizer, we should have been using that all the time anyway. Note cards and stamps. I am the post office best friend. I always have stamps with me because I know like where I'm going to go next. I'm going to be waiting for a little while. I can write 4 notes right there. Magic marker for your name badge, and always put it on this side, your right side, so people, when they look at you, their eyes go that way. Okay. Next. Okay. Again, the intangibles: eye contact, ears, hand, attitude, handshake. I know that some people will be like, "Oh my God, she hasn't looked at these slides for a while." No, that's not true. But I know we're not shaking hands as much as we're doing the bump now or something. But when you do shake someone's hand, which you will again, and I've already been doing, don't break their hand. Men, be careful, but don't also, women, we know this, don't do the little dainty handshake. Give a firm, good handshake. I always remember that. Turn off your phone. Can you believe I put BlackBerry? Yes, BlackBerry, the old days, but some people still have them. Next. And anything else that you would add. Okay, so the information bank, go back to it, please. And I love it. I refer back to my information bank all the time. 3 things, and then just, maybe at work or later, or if you're in one of your study groups or with your colleagues, go through and say, okay, what is something? Oh, I didn't know that about you, or something. But again, over time, you learn so much more. And it's a great thing for internal too, because people are like, oh, I didn't know they have this interest or that interest. Think about how you build. Okay, next. Is that it? And okay, I always say this. So again, think about this afterwards. What will I do more of, less of, and change? And most importantly, what's one takeaway that you'll take away from this session? It could be so simple, common sense, not common practice. Maybe smile more, or reach out, or make an extra phone call. Whatever it is, what's one thing that I'm going to put into practice? And you think about that afterwards. Okay. And okay, quickly I can go through. We'll go through this. I think Diane just put them all up. Your reputation is important. Follow up, return calls, be visible, key thing, respect and courtesy, and okay, be mindful, be present, key. Remember names. Remember that's key. Active listener. Kind of gone through these. Sensitive to body language. Know your profession. And next. And then this one I want to go over. So when you think of the word networking, you might want to write some of these down. Remember people's names. Think about their needs. So it's a key thing. And nurture, nurture, nurture. E, it's an evolution. It evolves over time. It's a process. If we think about that, have good eye contact, have your ears tuned up. T, talk less, listen more. And nothing happens until trust is involved. So everything we've talked about won't matter unless you develop a trust with somebody. Do they really want to refer you or even do business with you? And many times they're going to refer you because they just aren't going to maybe need your services. So think about, how do I trust? It takes forever to build, seconds to lose. W, it takes work to do what we're talking about, but the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. You've got to work it to make it work for you. And write notes. Every time you meet someone's an opportunity to learn from them, be a resource or give, or think about the fact that it's a reflection back on you. So I'm very careful on who I refer or connect via things, because it's a reflection back. If I put someone in touch with someone, they never follow up or something, they're not going to go back to that person, but they're going to remember, oh, Andrea, you set me up with that person. So, but also be resilient. Go through these things and relationships. Think about what you want to build. K, knowledge is power, only with execution. And the reason I say that is we know 99.9% of everything I've talked about, I remember the first time Barnes & Noble, remember that store, invited me to speak after I wrote my first book. And a man was in the audience and he raised his hand and he goes, Andrea, everything you talk about, I know. I said, great. Do you do it? He said, no. I said, then you don't get credit. So it's one thing to know it. It's another thing to put it into action. So take one. I take the initiative and become interested in other people. Zig Ziglar, who was a great inspirational and motivational speaker and author and salesperson, always talked about the more people you get interested in with sincerity, they'll become interested in you. N is think about, again, nothing happens until you start to nurture and build a network. So reach out and take that initiative. G, set a goal, be grateful, and know when to go. And I think I'm right on time. Practice all these things over time, you'll have them. So I hope this was a little helpful.
That was fabulous. That was fabulous. Thank you so much. Before we get on to questions, because we do have some and everybody leaves us, I want to reinforce that this is one of 4 presentations that we're giving. Next week is the power of visual branding. The following week is the 9 building blocks, the business model canvas, which is a foundation. If you want to have a business, you've really got to fill that in. And lastly, selling and buying a business. So because you've signed up for this webinar, you will be invited to all of the others. I also want to reinforce the Minnesota SCORE website at minnesota.score.org. If you're interested in volunteering, you could be a mentor. You may not know about networking, but I know you know a lot about your business, and you can be a mentor and a help to others. If you want to apply for a mentor, it's there as well. Check out our other workshops, podcasts, and so forth. They're all available on minnesotascore.org. You will be receiving a survey at the end of probably tomorrow. If you could fill it out, we would really be appreciative. What can we do to improve our webinars? And you'll also have an opportunity to select or suggest further webinars that we can put together to help you in your business. Please think about referring Minnesota SCORE to anyone whose business could benefit from it or who are looking for volunteer opportunities. So let me just look at our chat, and somebody said that this was fabulous. Of course, Andrea, we can understand that. Yes, you will be receiving this video and a lot of material that Andrea has graciously given to us. You will be receiving an email with the link to the video, as well as this PowerPoint presentation and a ton of handouts that she has offered for us. Let me see.
What, Diana, and you know what? I always like stand by what I said. If anybody has a question or comment, they can email me. Well, that's my preferred method of communication because I'm always on the run, and I will get back to them because a lot of times people have a question or comment, or something. So that's always better sometimes in the general because, it can get long.
Absolutely. David said it was a ton of information. I love the network and checklist. I'm going to print it out and use it. Okay, just scrolling through this. Okay, I think that's all the chat. And let me see about the questions. Could you please provide advice on how to exit a conversation gracefully?
Oh, yeah. And Oh, yeah, it's in my, my checklists, but I know what it is. You know, one thing, it's been great to talk to you, and perhaps I'll have another opportunity to connect at another time, because you're not going to always connect with every single person. Or it was wonderful to speak to you. You know, I'm going to give you a chance to talk to someone else now. That's nice. They're not going to be like, no, I just want to stay with you, right? But don't
Right.
say I'm going to go get a drink, or I'm going to go do this, or just say it was really wonderful to meet with you. Thanks for giving me so much information, and thank you for your contact information. With your permission, would it be okay to follow up with you if you're going to follow up? But if not, just say it was great to meet you, and I'll keep some of the things you said in mind. Perhaps we'll have another opportunity to talk. Or sometimes you might turn to someone and said, oh, Diane, I don't know if you've met John yet. So you put them together, then you gracefully walk away.
That's a good one.
Yes, I do that a lot too. And they're like, wow, that was good. And a lot of times it's good.
Yeah, and it's better for you that now
It's
you're
very good. Absolutely.
moving on. Other than people say, you know, excellent presentation, can you give example of a different introduction? I'm not sure, Dennis.
Different. Well, you know, a lot of times, you know, when people, if you focus on the other person, or again, if you go back and look at what you do, it's like I help people create connections positively and without fear. Sometimes people, oh, that's great. How do you do that? You know, so, you know, things like that, or help people get over the anxiety of speaking in public. That was, you know, as a public speaker and trainer for that for many years. So something that's just like that, where you just focus quickly on what you're going to say. What is it you do? But again, when you just say hello to someone, smile and ask a question, you know, what brings you here? Or have you been to this event before? Or what, you know, what's your interest in this particular thing? You know, make it fun.
Having some general questions that people can relate to. I recently was with someone, and it was just a matter of, so how is your day going?
Exactly. That's exactly.
Listening, and that leads to a further conversation. Yes, it is a skill that you can develop, and if you work at it, I think you'll find that it's wonderful. Well, I think we have answered all the questions. If you have any further questions for Andrea, please email her. You'll see her email address on the slideshow as well as on the video. She'd be happy to.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere because she's the master networker. And so she would love to hear from you.
Yes, and SCORE's great. SCORE's wonderful, and I always enjoy when I come back and visit. Great people, great knowledge. Take advantage of the wonderful, brilliant mentors that you have, because there's so much information.
Well, thank you, Andrea.